Hi, everybody. It's Boysen Hodgson, the Communications and Marketing Director for the ManKind Project USA. And this afternoon, I am sitting virtually with Robert Augustus Masters and his book, To Be a Man. So you've seen some email come out about this book through MKP circles. And I'll start by doing the thing that I did last time I spoke to Robert was, so I got this copy of the book from Bill Kauth, the founder of the co-creator of the New Warrior Training Adventure and founder of the ManKind Project. And Bill wrote on the inside cover for Boysen, if after 30 years I was to write a book, this would be it. Enjoy. Love, Bill. So that was my introduction to your book, and I love it. I love this book. Tell me about how you came to write this book.
Well, not directly. I was working on a book on shadow, another book on sex, and then Tammy Simon from Sounds True asked me if I would like to do a book on men. I hadn't even thought of doing it. I've worked with men for decades. I immediately said yes and dove in, and it was quite a dive. I did a couple long re-edits. The book took a long time to work out, but it increased my passion greatly to work with men only. I've done men's groups before, but more mixed groups, more trainings, a lot of individual work, couples work, but I decided to do just men's work for a while along with my trainings, and I was delighted to see how I felt from doing it. I found myself energized by it. I liked the camaraderie, the connection. I liked doing the extremely deep work and watching a group of men really transform in a few days. So I've been doing them ever since, along with my other work, and that happened because the book came out. And the book came out because I was asked to do it. I hadn't thought of doing that myself. It made total sense once I started. I thought, wow, I have a lot to say about men, working with men, being a man, and just cutting through all the layers, the shame and everything, just to get down to that raw essence of being a man, and in all its glory and beauty and all its challenges.
Tell me about thank you very much. Tell me about some of the perspectives that you brought. What I really appreciate in your writing and even in the way that you laid out the book is you brought all sorts of different perspectives to the work. So there's a social justice-y perspective in here. There is a shadow work perspective in here. There's a deep psychology perspective in here. Talk more about how you have approached the subject.
Well, it reflects the way I work. I like to work in a very integral fashion, so I'm bringing together all these different dimensions all the time, whether it's in a small group, individual work. It's part of my life. And to do it partially leaves too much out, like only to limit shadow work, for example, to archetypal considerations, opposed to looking at our deep wounding, our deep conditioning. I took as thorough a look as I could without losing the depth. And the book was written through me in many ways, too. I didn't plan to have a section on with movie reviews, stuff on heroes, stuff on gay men, stuff. It all had to be there. And I could not let the book go, and it couldn't let me go until I was done. Mm-hmm. And it was quite a journey. I mean, I got wrung out. I mean, I wanted to quit sometimes. It was really tough, because I was also working full-time as a therapist and spiritual teacher, so adding this on was like a lot. And yet now I'm so grateful I did it.
Yeah. And why now? And this is...
Because it's time. It's time. I've seen so many men struggling, feeling ashamed of working on themselves, limiting their work to in a very shallow way, narrow way. And I want to make an offer to bring it into a bigger sense of self. So I've been inviting men in this book to really step into their full manhood. And the subtitle in some parts of what I do is bringing heart, head, guts into full-blooded alignment. And the full-blooded is really important, where it's vital. It's not an intellectual consideration. It's embodied. It's emotional. It's relational. And it's a big challenge, but I found most men really respond well when they see it framed as an invitation to go deep. It's not like a shame-ridden entry into, I have to work on myself. My wife says I need to do this. It's more like, I get to bring out the best of me to do this, because it requires the best of us to step into our shadowlands, to step into our wounding, to step into the place where we don't feel powerful and competent and together. We feel small, disempowered, overly vulnerable. And there's a way through that. But it begins with turning toward our pain. So a lot of my book is this invitation to step toward the pain, step toward the suffering, just a little step at a time, and to remind ourselves this takes courage. It takes balls to step into that. And it brings out the warrior in a man in the best sense of that word, the vulnerable warrior, the warrior of intimacy. And I love being kind of a midwife for that. I don't mean in a gender sense, but a midwife for that, a catalyst for that, and holding presence for that. It's a delight. And I'm aging. I'm 68 now, and I'm amazed how much energy I still get from doing a group with men.
Awesome. Beautiful.
Yeah.
You draw some really good distinctions. I've heard you speak to differences and distinctions inside of some of the male emotions commonly held. Anger. Mm-hmm. I've heard you speak to the difference between aggressiveness and anger as a pure emotion. Talk a little bit about anger and talk a little bit about shame, because these are two things that I think you really
They're all
have.
tied together. I mean, just think of shame. Most of us, when we feel shame, especially us guys, we either dissociate or more commonly we get aggressive. We go on the attack. Then we don't have to feel our shame. We look like we're only angry or aggressive. But in fact, we're actually, the whole thing is shame-based. And anger itself, I mean, I've written a lot about anger, trying to bring it out of the places where it's seen as this only negative emotion. It's somehow trashed by many people. I saw the distinction between anger and aggression a long time ago and took a lot of pains to separate them. Like anger is a passion. It's an emotion. True anger, healthy anger has heart. So if I'm pissed at you and you're my friend, I'll be heated, I'll be red-faced, I'll have some degree of caring in what I'm conveying, some degree of heart, so you'll feel safer because of that. You may be a little shaken, but you know we're still in relationship. Mm-hmm. If I get aggressive with you, I don't give a crap about you. I've lost my heart. I just want to take you down. I may do it with a smile, but I'm out to get you. Mm-hmm. And anger and aggression often get conflated, confused, made synonymous, and they're very different. And I think when a man realizes, here's anger, here's aggression, and takes steps to minimize the aggression and to embrace a healthy anger, it's a huge step. He becomes much safer, for example, the women in his life. He's no longer threatening or scary. He still is heated, he's intense, but he has not lost his heart, which is so crucial.
Yeah, you described anger as a vulnerable emotion,
mm-hmm.
which I love that. I love that distinction, and I've come to understand that distinction in my own body and my own relationship.
Exactly. So if you're really angry at me and it's clean, you'll be heated, but you also may be close to tears because you're vulnerable. Not that you let the tears put out the water, the tears put out the fire of the anger, but there's a vulnerability, there's a tenderness, and that works. It's what I call heart anger. It's the highest stage of anger for me. Anger expression is to come from the heart. And we're capable of it to whatever degree. Mm-hmm. And it's good to remember that. So if you're having a hassle with your partner and you're feeling angry, if you bring some heart into that interaction, she's going to feel a little safer. Just a little, but it makes a difference.
Yeah, it's a kind of question. Sorry, continue.
Even if she senses the effort you're making to not just keep going and scoring points and being right, she's seen that you're also aware of what you're doing. And yeah, you're heated, but you also don't want to lose the connection or trash the connection. You don't forget that. You don't forget her.
Yeah.
It sounds simple, but it's so easy in the heat of reactive anger to forget all this.
Yeah.
And then that becomes aggression. We start to attack the other. We get sarcastic. We start to get a little hateful, perhaps. We lose touch with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's this a thing about like the energy. Is the energy that I'm directing really wanting, because I can feel it in my body, I'm angry, I want you close, versus I'm angry, I want you away.
Yes. Or you could be angry because you miss her. Maybe she's lost touch with you a little bit, and your anger is a way of cutting through the relational deadwood. It's a way of calling her back. In that sense, anger can be an ally for intimacy, not an enemy.
Yeah. Yeah, or calling him back, as I can feel. I mean, in my men's group, I mean, I have relationships with men over 10, 12 years now that are deep heart relationships, and I can get heated in those relationships. Yeah.
It's also good to know, circling back, is there any shame going on in here? Any shame over maybe a perceived sense of incompetency, or maybe someone else is judging me? Is there any shame? And then having the the courage to say, I'm feeling some shame now. Because shame is a very uncomfortable emotion. That's why we want to get away from it so quickly. But if we sit with our shame, it becomes workable. And so if I've hurt you and said when we're friends, I feel some shame. If I'm present with my shame, then I can make amends very quickly. I can tell you I'm sorry, and I do it from my heart. You soften, I soften, and we're reconnected. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I got aggressive or defensive, then the separation increases, it thickens.
And I say yes, and I see so much of this going on out there in the land of politics and media and everything these days, that it's just stunning. Let's talk about deep emotional work. So in the ManKind Project, as you know, we do this little training called the New Warrior Training Adventure.
Yeah. About
100 times a year around the world these days. And then we have men's groups, and our men's groups are intended to, in the New Warrior Training, we touch, for a lot of guys, that's their very first experience with body work, with heart work, with getting out of our heads on some level, and also with the container, a male container that is built for doing that work. It's for many men, that's their first experience. So I'm intrigued by your work. So talk more about deep work.
Well, deep work, in part, I mean, just to take the body. When I'm doing body work, I'm connecting what I'm doing manually with the emotional state of the person. I'm also giving them psychological direction all at the same time. So the catharsis that happens isn't just a release of energy. It's also connected to what has happened in one's history. So if one is angry now, I will connect that anger to when it first arose, say from an abusive or negligent parent. So the healing runs deeper. So emotional work, it all works together, because if I'm just giving someone incomplete sentences to finish, their emotions may arise, and I can work with that. It doesn't have to be hands-on. But the deep work really is about getting down to the core wound, like the stuff that really is down there at the foundation of our being. Like someone's cry from there might be, what about me? Or see me. It's always very simple. It's not sophisticated psychological language. It's very simple, and it's a cry for something, and the body's involved. It could be a reaching out. And to flow with that means to be with that man or woman in that place of deep wounding, and also bringing in just enough of a witnessing consciousness so the person's not completely lost in it, but they are absorbed in it. So my work is to be kind of a guide in that, so I'm empathetically close to them, but I'm just enough away from it so I can guide it and keep my eye on the overall energy of what's going on. Because often the releases don't follow a set pattern. It can be very unusual. It may involve a shift in the person's eyes. Facial structure can change. The body goes through a lot of shifts. And I've done this for probably 30, 40 years, where I combine the body work with the psychological, emotional, and spiritual work. And I use it now at my advanced age still, because it's the quickest way in. So if I have 15 minutes with someone in a group, I can use working with their body or their eyes and get down to the crunch really quickly.
Let's talk a little bit, because another concept, of course, that we play with in MKP and use in our work is the idea of shadow.
Yes.
And you spoke to that in the book, and talk more about shadow.
Well, I think shadow just means whatever aspects of our conditioning have not yet been illuminated. So it's pretty simple. It's whatever you ever say. If we're talking about you've rejected in yourself, disowned, said that's not me, and that's where a lot of the wounding is. For a lot of people, their anger can be in their shadow. Some men, their vulnerability can be there. It's or the part of them that doesn't give a damn about the other person at all, even though they act like they're a very nice person, they're very sweet. It's very revealing when it's brought forward. And I like to see it brought forward in a way that's very emotional, so it really sinks in. It's not just intellectual consideration of different perspectives. It's a sense of, here it is. Here's the monster that was chasing me in the dream. Now I'm facing it. I'm working with it in, say, a psychotherapeutic situation. I realize, my God, when they play both roles, that's me. That's my power. That large, scary animal pursuing me is my disowned power. And when that person has that insight and it registers more than intellectually, it's a big turning point. And so I don't call my work shadow work, but almost all my work is shadow work, working with whatever has not been yet healed, brought into the open, integrated with the rest of our being. So to me, it's absolutely essential. It's not just a surface arcane pursuit. It's something very, very deep, and it's so entirely worth doing. And you can start with just reading about it, understanding it a little bit, playing with some archetypes. Then you can go deeper and deeper, and there you are in your wounding that has not yet seen the light of day. And that's where the healing starts. It's like you go toward the dragon's cave. You know there's a treasure there. The dragon's guarding it. You have to face the dragon. You have to face the shadow. The shadow could be lust. It could be aggression. It could be old pain that's never been touched. But once you encounter it, the healing starts. But again, the first step is to know that this exists and to turn toward it. Just a tiny step at a time. You turn too fast, you could get burnt. You could rebound too much. You get too frightened. But if you avoid it, you miss out on life. You don't feel the depth of life. You don't get to love fully, rage fully, die really consciously. You live a little bit removed from what you could be doing. And I think shadow work makes it possible to really go in there all the way, to make that darkness visible and to re-embrace it, to bring it back. Everything I faced in my shadow is me that's not been accepted, acknowledged. Everything, including the darkest stuff. And we all have very dark places in our shadow. And if we don't know them, we're going to be more likely to act them out. So I'm really curious about whatever is still dark in me. It's kind of exciting after all. It becomes less and less scary and more exciting as you do it. Yes. At first, of course, there's massive trepidation. Of course, it's completely natural.
Yeah. And thank you. Yes. And I feel, I feel sad when that first turning toward it is really scary. Mm-hmm. And these days when I meet men who, not going to turn toward it, it's just like, there's so much.
Most will not turn toward it unless there's been enough suffering in their life. Something's happened. Their wife's just left them. Something's happened, or they've gotten very ill, or they suddenly realize they're going to die. Then there can be a turning toward. That's the unfortunate part. Most of us don't do that unless we were hit over the head with a cosmic 2x4 or something similar. Then we go, oh my God, look what I've been missing.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. That's a nice integral kind of that calls Claire Graves into the room. When the pain is enough, we evolve. When there's enough pain in the environment, we change. I love, and here's a teaser for the book. I love your Facing the Shadow list of questions, the conversation prompts that you have in the book here. I'm not going to read any of them. Go buy the book and read the list of prompts. It's a great starting point.
That's also the way I work. In my work, I train people how to use incomplete sentences, because I've learned over the last dozen years it's the most efficient, quick way of working with language to get in there. And you can switch course. You can be very intuitive. You can go deep. You can go shallow. It's a wonderful way to do. So those sentences were put in there as an invitation for people to just finish the sentence and see what comes up.
That is a jewel out of this conversation. Yes, learn how to speak in incomplete sentences.
How I feel about that is...
Really excited.
All right.
Yeah, that's been revolutionary as a parent also. I'm in a kind of therapeutic parenting journey. So learning...
called.
Yes. Yeah. And the open-ended questions, the how questions and the what questions, and the dropping the end of the questions, and how I feel about that is, and if there was one thing about that I could say it would be, and like all of those things, yeah,
etc. Yeah,
etc. It's kind of a daily thing. Let's talk about evolution and manhood. So, how do you see masculinity evolving these days?
I see it evolving into a more integrated kind of man. A man who's not just like the old time hard guy, hard shelled, or the guy who's kind of new agey, kind of too soft, not much spine. I see an evolution to where hardness and softness can work together. There can be that forcefulness as a man, taking charge, and with no bullshit sense, and also a lot of tenderness, coexisting. I see very few men who have both on tap. But I see also that men, when they're showing this, embrace it. There's a joy. When a man's in that place in a group, I see it inspires everyone else in the room. The other guys all can feel that in them. What's it like to have this open and tender, but I still have my balls. I still can take a stand. I still can get really angry if I have to, but I'm not abusive in it. I'm just strong. So strength and softness coexisting, finding a source of strength in your vulnerability, and so on. I see men stepping into that more now than they had before. I remember working with men 20, 30, 40 years ago. I didn't see it very much. Now it's happening more and more and more, along with the fact that men and women now have enough level ground between them to be peers and to have relationships that are truly vehicles for healing and deep awakening. So intimate relationship can become a crucible and a sanctuary for the deepest possible work. And that wasn't there 30, 40 years ago very much at all. Now it's here. So I think men have, and women have, this huge opportunity to cut through the gender war and just have the very best of both meet in deep intimacy, true intimacy.
Wonderful. Yes. Yes. We have the ability now and opportunities. And it's a scary place to be in a culture where men and women are we're not taught, we're not shown, we don't have a lot of role models from early ages now about like, okay, what does this new landscape look like? And how do we see this new landscape as a playground rather than, apocalyptic wasteland,
right,
whatever it might feel like.
Well, part of the work required is to recognize the cultural trance that's available to us 24/7 and to start to disengage from it. Yeah. To step out of it, to step out of that sped up automaticity that is so prevalent. And as we do that, we start to heal and we start to awaken more fully. But we have to be aware of the cultural impact that we're all suffering, the collective overwhelm, all the things that are going on, the poor modeling. And that's why you say new warrior, because this is new. Yeah. This is new. And it's new and very beautiful. These are exciting times for relationship. Yeah. I see more and more people committing themselves to using relationship as a means of healing and awakening. It's not just something you do if you can't be spiritual. It's a spiritual path unto itself.
Yeah, wonderful.
If I see someone who says they want to go deeper and they're not in a relationship, I'll say, well, instead of going off to the next ashram or doing more meditation retreats, how about getting into an intimate relationship? Because it will bring up everything about you, everything, including what you don't want to look at all. Then you get to integrate it into your being. You get to meet it. It's a wonderful opportunity. It's very challenging. It's scary, but you're in it. It's like it challenges you, right?
Oh, yeah.
But it's not just a crucible. It's also a sanctuary. Yeah. Because you're safe in it. And a really good relationship, there's a safety where you can show up and be as vulnerable and broken down and in pieces sometimes, and you're still able to work with it because the person with you does not judge you for it or want you to have it all together. Yeah. That's part of the healing.
Or they may not always judge you for it and want you to have it all together, but they're able to own that shadow of themselves also, right?
That's the key part.
Yeah.
To be able to admit, here's my inner workings, here's what's really going on with me, and here's the levels of it.
Yeah. Yes. Shadow play. Truth's always in the relationship at some level. So something that has taught me, something in 12 years of doing men's work, I have learned I've learned so much from the gay men and bi men who have come into my life as a result of doing men's work. So sitting in circle with these men, being there when they do deep work, being involved intimately in their lives to know what it feels like. You have a chapter in the book that talks specifically about gay men. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it felt very important for me to include that chapter because I've worked with lots of gay men over the last decades, and I've been consistently moved by the depth of the work, the openness, and also sensing the pressure they were under, the extra layers of shame that were there because they were gay and how that was handled. So it made me very sensitive to their plight, so I had to have a chapter in there. Some people said, don't put it in there, da-da-da. I said, no, I have to have that chapter in there. It belongs there. And when I've worked with gay men deeply in the group work, men's groups, It's always about, here's more men. We're all men. The
Yes.
fact that you're gay, yeah, you got some different things going than I do, but you know what? It's the same fundamental work, the same core wounds, the same stuff to bring up and work with. And when they were welcomed into the circle of men, not in a forced way, but it was natural, and the gayness was not in the way at all. It didn't matter. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
It's also been part when I've had often when I work with men on sexuality, I'll say, let's look at what I call eroticizing wounds. I want to hear your favorite, hottest sexual fantasy or porn thing you could see. They'll tell me, and then I'll take each guy and I'll strip it free of its eroticism and say, here's all the conditioning from your childhood. And it's always true. Straight or gay, here it is. It's not like you're weird or strange. Given your conditioning, this is why your sexuality leans in this direction when it comes to what gets you hot. And it's based on the charge you had initially that wasn't sexual, the situation in your life was difficult. Then you eroticized it later on. And knowing this helps you step toward a healthier sexuality, straight or gay. And the gay men have been included in that, straight guys. And it's like a brotherhood. Here we are sharing stuff. And if one guy has particularly dark stuff going, say, with porn, stuff it's hard to hear, some of the stuff that's so heavy. Same thing. There's the wounding. There it is. And here comes the compassion for this man, not the tolerance for his habit, but the compassion for it and the way he's been suffering so much. And this became the only solution for him until he realized, hey, this is not a very skillful approach to this.
Yeah.
I can go deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said, I'm just going to read this line because it just really hit me as a straight guy. Those of us who are not gay cannot fully embody our manhood without including gay men in our circle of being. I just want to say that that's absolutely been true for me.
And me.
Yeah.
And me. Yeah.
That's really cool. You just touched it, and we'll touch this, and then we'll move out of it. You touched on pornography, and listening to you and doing more reading here, you have a really cool take on pornography. So, talk about that.
Yeah, it's not about indulging in it or condemning it. It's more like about outgrowing it. Because when I see men that are into porn, and I'm working with them and their wife in couples work, there's a triangle. There's him, her, and the porn. Mm-hmm. He's not cheating in a physical sense, but he's putting energy that could go into her there, and he's not looking at what drives him to do it. Once he looks at what drives him to do it, he sees there's the old wounding. Here's what porn was the solution for it. When he faces that, his pull toward porn loses its charge. He doesn't say, "Oh, porn's bad, I shouldn't do it." It's more like, I don't want to put my energy there anymore. I want to put it elsewhere. I don't want to keep blowing off my energy through sexual release. I want to circulate the energy more. I want to give it more to my partner or whatever. And there's an outgrowing. And in that, there's a clear seeing of it. It's not like a righteous moral position. It's more, okay, here's an unskillful solution to dealing with pain. Pornography. It's like the business end of eroticism, unhealthy eroticism. And it tends to dehumanize the other. A lot of men will see, I'll say, when you watch your next video, here's a practice. Don't dehumanize the woman or man you're looking at. Humanize them, tune into them, see what happens. And they almost always report, it lessens my charge. And have a little picture of yourself as a little boy maybe beside you at the same time, because that's the origin, the wounding that boy felt. So I've seen many men outgrow it. Men with the most strong habits often regress a little bit, go back to it. But most men are relieved to not be hooked, because addiction has its hit, but addiction to that robs a man of his capacity to be fully with a partner. Fully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. And the humanization part that you spoke to in an interview that I was listening to also really struck me as like when the trance that you mentioned, when I wake up out of the trance and start seeing what's happening from a much more empathic, compassionate, it's like, oh, wow. Seeing the reality of it also.
And seeing what you have to push aside in order to continue with the pornographic ritual, you're pushing aside a lot of important stuff to do that.
Yeah. Yes, objectification and dehumanization and abuse. Yeah, in many ways. Wow. So that was a lot covered in a very short period of time. So what are you working on now in your life? What's got your attention?
What's got my attention is more men's groups, and I'm going to start to train men how to work the way I work with men. Right now, I train people who are professional therapists how to deepen their work and do it the way, not to copy me, but to take on the same context where it's intuitive, integral, really deep, creative. So I have those passions going. I have a book inside me on shadow, but I don't have the time and energy to write it, unfortunately. To download it would mean I'd have to step away from my work, and I can't really do that. And I'm just enjoying deepening into my elderly years. I'm 68 now, and I feel it. I still feel young inside, but I feel it. And I'm more and more aware of my mortality. The last men's group I did, we spent a whole afternoon on death. It came out spontaneously, working with it, feeling it, considering it, and going into our mortality very, very deeply. I wouldn't have done that 10 years ago, but it feels relevant to me now. Mm-hmm. And I found even the young guys in the group were mesmerized by that. They got into it too, because they could go at any point. So I'm deepening the work. It's more overtly spiritual now. It still involves body work, gestalt, the dramatic catharsis, and things like that. But I feel myself easing into my last stage, and I feel good about that. It's like good preparation for my death. Clear mind, open heart, soft belly, open to the mystery, which is a great attitude to bring into my work anyways, but I'm just being pushed into it more because my body doesn't respond the same way at the gym. I can't run as far. I don't mind. It's like accepting it. It's a decline that doesn't feel like a decline.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just a ripening.
A ripening.
Yeah.
So, Robert Augustus Masters, thank you so much for getting together with me this afternoon for a little while. There's the book, To Be a Man. There'll be a link to it underneath the video. And I'm also going to be linking to your Shadow audio series that is available through Sounds True.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've done amazing work, and you are doing amazing work. Thank you.
And you're a wonderful interviewer.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.